Wednesday after Easter, up until 1950, there was a feast day called St. Joseph, patron of the church. And it started in 1847. This was before he was officially declared that, though, which I find fascinating. There was a feast day before the title, which usually it's the other way around. It was Pius IX who declared him patron of the church in 1870. The feast was originally celebrated the third Sunday after Easter, and the reason he wanted it celebrated on the Sunday was so that people would have to attend that feast day, because Sunday is a holy day of obligation. And normally we don't celebrate saints' feast days on Sunday, but the Pope at the time decided to do that. I don't know if it's unprecedented or not, but he said, I want it celebrated on this third Sunday after Easter to force people to acknowledge Joseph as patron. It was then moved to the third Wednesday, Wednesday also being a significant day, as Wednesdays are dedicated to St. Joseph. And it was celebrated until 1955. It was suppressed by Pius XII because he then instituted the Feast of Joseph the Worker, which was May 1st. So there'd be too many St. Joseph feast days close together like that. So he decided to drop the patron and elevate the worker. I celebrate it privately. A lot of people do. Again, it's another thing to contemplate and meditate on. So later, 1955, we have St. Joseph the Worker. And this was almost a political move in a way, because it was to counter the communist holiday of May Day, International Workers' Day. And the church being against communism right from the start, we wanted to show the dignity of the worker, the person, not the collective, but the person himself, and using St. Joseph as the example, because he wasn't a soldier, he wasn't a king, he was a worker, a carpenter. After that, we have in, July 20th on the Julian calendar and August 2nd on the Gregorian calendar, we have the Feast of the Holy Death of St. Joseph. Now, this has been celebrated by the Coptic Church for centuries, even before we really started celebrating March 19th. So technically, I think the first St. Joseph feast day was the Coptic Church on July 20th. And of course, we celebrate his holy death, and usually when a saint dies, the day that they die on is the day we celebrate their feast day, because they're born almost again into the next life, to be with our Lord. So we have those days. And Eastern Orthodox Church, they have a feast day of St. Joseph the Betrothed, which is the first Sunday after Christmas. So they also celebrate on that day, like St. James, King David, the relatives of our Lord, which includes St. Joseph. For us Catholics, we have the Feast of the Holy Family, the first Sunday after Christmas. That was instituted by Pope Leo XIII. It was encouraged by Pius XII, Benedict XV. They love that feast day, the Holy Family. And that brings us to the private, unofficial feast of the Chaste Heart of St. Joseph. First Wednesday after the Sacred Heart and the Immaculate Heart. It's like a triduum of hearts to celebrate. And it's fitting that they be celebrated so closely together, because where one is, the rest are as well. Where Jesus is, he carries Our Lady with him, and St. Joseph, and vice versa. But the earthly trinity, we can sometimes call them, And so we celebrate that his heart was so united to the Immaculate Heart and the Sacred Heart, that his heart beats with love for the Sacred and Immaculate Heart, and the fact that we call it the Chaste Heart celebrates obviously his purity, but it's also an invitation to us to want to emulate and get that heart for ourselves as well, to be chaste no matter what our state in life. Also, the document that Pope Francis came out with, in the year of St. Joseph, a father's heart. So we see the heart of St. Joseph is being meditated more upon, which is really good. Because again, it's been around for centuries. People, unofficially dedicated to the Chaste Heart, depicting it in artwork, especially in the New World. And like the Immaculate Heart and the Sacred Heart, it might be a few centuries more before we get an actual feast day, because the Immaculate Heart had to wait until Pius XII to get the feast day. And that was in response to Our Lady of Fatima, who said, our Lord wishes my heart to be, venerated beside his. The Sacred Heart, that didn't come until much later, even though it's been piously celebrated and meditated upon for centuries. So maybe not in our lifetime, but give it a couple hundred years and there might be a Chaste Heart feast day on the first Wednesday after the Sacred Heart, which makes sense. I came across these Mexican feast days, and I've been reading a book about the New World, New Spain, and how St. Joseph was basically, the devotion was brought over to Mexico, Mexico today, New Spain back then, and how his image was kind of given a transformation. He was no longer depicted as this old man. He was depicted as the same age as Our Lady, as being handsome, well-dressed, smiling in some instances, which you don't see much in the old pictures. And with that came wanting to celebrate him, wanting to make him an example to the people that they were colonizing. They had some unofficial feast days that they celebrated that I don't think were ever on the calendar. But example, we have June 19th as the conception of Joseph, the Nativity of Joseph, March 19th, the Holy Name of Joseph and the Circumcision on March 26th. We have the presentation of Joseph in the temple on April 27th. We have St. Joseph, patron against storms, on May 23rd, which is kind of a fascinating one. We have the betrothal, the Holy Esposos, and we do it on January 23rd, but at some point it was celebrated on November 26th and even on March 24th, the day before the Annunciation. And then we have the Holy Parents of St. Joseph, which we never think about really, who are celebrated June 11th. So again, these are unofficial. They may have been just local feast days for like specific towns. Like I haven't been able to ascertain that yet. But the fact that these were being celebrated, I think is a great example for us, like for us to meditate on these things. It might not be official, but there's nothing wrong with meditating on, the circumcision of Joseph, because that's when his name was given. God will give increase. Conception of Joseph. Well, a lot of people believe he was sanctified in the womb. So we celebrate what God was already starting in Joseph, just like we celebrate the Immaculate Conception of Mary. So, but the Holy Parents of Joseph, that one really caught me off guard. And I thought, how wonderful. Because St. Anna and St. Joachim, they have a feast day. So maybe it's okay for St. Joseph's parents to have a feast day, even though their names are, speculated upon. Is there anything you wanted to say in regards to any of this before we went on to some other topics?
All those feast days, I think it'd be awesome if we can make a chart and we can show, our viewers, in a nice chart of all these feast days, since our title today is Feasting with St. Joseph. And we can see insights into the life of St. Joseph and who he really was and is in salvation history, being the Virgin Father of Jesus, by looking at all these particular feast days that have, kind of spotted the church calendar on and off throughout time. And you mentioned Mexico, and I had a little bit of an enlightenment while you're talking that I know the drink that I will try to drink today, if I can find it. It might be difficult, but it's a Mexican drink called Patron. So since Joseph is the patron of the Universal Church, in Spanish it would be Patron, there's a wonderful special edition silver tequila, fittingly with a green bow on it, and you have to drink it with a green lime. So I think that could be a perfect drink to drink today. Just a small tequila shot of some strong Patron tequila.